Naomi always sat by the window. Not the one that overlooked the street, but the smaller one in the cafe's corner where the ivy climbed the bricks, where shadows fell in soft patterns on her notebook. From there, she could see both the present and the past. The coffee bar ahead of her, and the cobbled alley behind where he had once kissed her in the rain. It had been 3 years since Julian left for Berlin. 3 years since he'd pressed his forehead to hers and whispered, "You'll forget me. You're good at that." He was wrong. She wasn't. Now, Naomi was 29, wearing the same denim jacket he'd once scribbled a poem on the sleeve of. She claimed it was fashion nostalgia. Her friends weren't convinced. "You're stuck in a loop," her sister Mira had said last week, exasperated. "You can't live in the rear view forever." But how do you tell someone that the past isn't just behind you? That sometimes it lives inside you? Today, she was meeting someone new. Noah, a photographer. Kind eyes. He'd offered to buy her coffee after she spilled hers on his sketchbook at the park last Sunday. Naomi checked her watch. And then she did it again. But not the time. She glanced behind her. The alley. The ghost of a memory. The place where she'd last seen Julian. Her heart did the familiar twist. A mix of guilt and yearning. She turned back to face the door, willing herself to be present. Noah walked in. He had a camera slung over his shoulder and a smile that was sunshine without the heat. "Hi," he said. "You still like oat milk lattes, right?" She blinked. "How did you?" "You told me last week," he grinned. "You talk when you're nervous." "It's kind of adorable." That startled a laugh out of her. Maybe it was the first real one in months. They sat. Talked. He told her about a photo project he was doing, people in transit, portraits of people in motion. Trains, buses, sidewalks, airports. "I'm fascinated by how everyone is going somewhere, but so few know where they actually want to be." Naomi stared at him. I'm more fascinated by people who stop. Or look back." "Why?" he asked, sipping his coffee. "Because they're either haunted," she said softly, "or hoping." He nodded, as if he understood more than she meant to say. Outside, the alley shimmered in the sunlight. Empty. Silent. "Can I show you something?" Noah asked. He reached into his bag and pulled out a Polaroid. Her heart skipped. It wasn't of her. It was of the cafe window, her window. The place she always sat, caught in golden hour. Light curling like a whisper around her silhouette. "I took this before I even met you," he said. "I just liked the way you looked, like you were waiting for something important." Naomi stared at the photo, then looked behind her again. This time, not for Julian. This time, to finally say goodbye. She turned back around. Noah was still there. Not rushing her. Not expecting her to be whole yet. And for the first time, she didn't flinch from the future. She reached for his hand. It felt warm. Steady. Not a spark, but a glow. "I think," she whispered, "I'm ready to face forward now." Naomi hadn't told Noah everything. Not about the letter. Not about the last text Julian sent the night before he left. "I'll wait, but don't keep me waiting forever." She never replied. Not because she didn't love him, but because she didn't trust herself not to follow him. It had been 3 weeks since her first coffee with Noah. 3 weeks of gentle laughs, of shared playlists, of casual walks that turned into aimless hours, neither wanting to be the one to say goodbye. She liked him. She liked how he asked questions and didn't flinch at complicated answers. She liked how he noticed small things, how she always smoothed the corner of her napkin or hesitated before speaking, as if she were editing her heart in real time. But liking someone and being ready for them were two different things. And Julian, he still lingered. Not always as a wish. Sometimes as a warning. One gray morning, Naomi received an envelope. No return address. No stamp. Just her name, handwritten in familiar loops that tangled her breath. She opened it slowly. Inside, a photograph. It was taken in Berlin. A bookstore window with a red bicycle in front. In the reflection of the glass, barely visible Julian. Holding the camera. Looking right at her. Or at least, at who she used to be. On the back. Still here. Still waiting. But maybe not forever. That night, Naomi invited Noah to the cafe. The window seat was taken. She didn't mind. They sat at a different table. One that faced the world outside instead of her memories. "I got something today," she said, sliding the photo across the table. He studied it carefully, then looked up. "Julian." She nodded. "And I think he still believes I belong to him." "Do you?" Naomi paused. Her voice was careful but not cold. "I belonged to who I was then. He was the only one who understood that version of me. But I'm not her anymore. Noah stayed quiet, then gently said, "You don't have to prove anything to me. If you need to go to Berlin and figure it out, do it. I'd rather lose you honestly than keep a shadow of you." Tears stung her eyes, sudden and sharp. "Why are you so kind?" Noah smiled, but it was a sad one. "Because I know what it feels like to love someone who's still looking over their shoulder." That weekend, Naomi booked a flight. Not to rekindle, to release. Berlin was colder than she remembered. The bookstore was still there. So was the red bicycle. For a second, she wondered if Julian would be waiting inside. He wasn't. Instead, taped to the door was another photo. This time of her sitting by the cafe window. Caught in that moment Noah described. Lost, suspended. Waiting. On the back, in Julian's handwriting. "Don't look back for me anymore. I love you too much to hold you in place." She cried right there, surrounded by strangers and street lamps. But not because she was sad. Because she was finally free. When she returned, Noah was waiting in front of her apartment, camera dangling, holding 2 coffees. "I got you oat milk," he said. "Unless that's not your thing anymore." Naomi walked up, wrapped her arms around him, and said into his chest, "No, it still is." Naomi's apartment felt different after she returned from Berlin. Not just in the way the furniture had settled into their spaces, but in the way she moved through it lighter, less burdened. For the first time in a long while, she could breathe without wondering if the past would come rushing back, demanding attention. And Noah made it feel like she wasn't moving forward alone. They'd become a fixture in each other's days. Shared mornings that bled into afternoons, their conversations flowing like old songs that were still being written. It felt natural, effortless. But nothing is ever as simple as it seems, and love has a way of testing even the most carefully constructed boundaries. It was a Saturday when Naomi received the text. It was from Julian. "I'm back in town. I'd like to see you." She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the screen for a long time. The invitation hung in the air between her and Noah, even though he hadn't yet seen it. Noah was in the kitchen making lunch, unaware of the storm that had just started brewing inside her. When she finally walked into the kitchen, her hands were cold, her chest tight. "Naomi." Noah looked up, noticing the change immediately. "What's wrong?" She handed him the phone. He read the message. His face remained neutral, but the quiet tension in his jaw was enough to tell her everything. He handed it back to her. "Do you want to see him?" "I don't know," Naomi admitted. "I don't want to hurt you. But I don't think I can just pretend like he never existed." Noah leaned against the counter, thinking, "You're not pretending, Naomi. You're just choosing what comes next." Naomi's heart twisted. She wanted to believe him, but it wasn't that simple. What came next wasn't just about her. It was about the two of them, and she had to be sure that she wasn't letting the past sabotage the present. "I want to be with you," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't want to close that door completely. I need to know that I'm making the right choice." Naomi met Julian the next evening at a small cafe near the river. It was their old spot, the place where they'd spent endless nights talking about dreams and promises they never meant to keep. Now the tables were worn, the air thick with the scent of spilled coffee and missed opportunities. Julian looked almost exactly the same. Same sharp jaw, same dark hair that fell a little too long over his forehead. But his eyes, they were different. Hollow, like he'd been carrying a burden for longer than he could remember. He stood as she approached, a tentative smile forming as their eyes locked. "Naomi," he said, his voice rough. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I needed to," she replied. "For both of us." They sat, the awkwardness between them palpable. Julian cleared his throat. "I didn't know how to apologize. For leaving the way I did. For not fighting for you." Naomi shook her head. "You didn't need to fight for me. I just wasn't ready." There was a long silence as the weight of that admission settled over them. Julian finally spoke, his voice quieter now. "Do you love him?" The question hung between them, sharp and loaded. Naomi took a deep breath. She hadn't thought about how to answer it, how could she? But in that moment, she realized she didn't need to search for the words. She already knew. "I think I do," she said, her voice steady. "I think I've been learning how to love him piece by piece. And I'm scared. I'm scared I'll hurt him by looking back at you. But I can't keep holding on to something that's already gone." Julian nodded, his gaze softening. "Then I guess this is goodbye. For real this time." "Yeah," Naomi whispered. "I think it is." Noah was waiting when she got home. She didn't tell him everything, not yet. But when she walked through the door, her heart was clearer, lighter, more certain than it had been in years. "I saw him," she said as she closed the door behind her. "And it was just a goodbye. The last one." Noah looked at her, his face unreadable for a moment. Then slowly he stepped toward her. "Are you sure?" Naomi nodded, tears threatening, but not falling. "I'm sure. I don't need to go back anymore. You're the one I'm ready for." Weeks passed. They grew even closer, their bond growing in ways Naomi hadn't expected. Noah was patient, kind, and he never asked her to erase the past. He simply asked her to choose him every day. And slowly she did. One evening, as they sat on Naomi's couch, laughing about a story Noah had told her from a shoot, he turned serious for a moment. "I've been thinking," he said, his eyes searching hers. "I think I'm ready for something more with you, Naomi. Not just a we'll see where this goes thing. I'm talking about the kind of love where we don't look back. The kind where we build our future instead of just waiting for it." Naomi felt a flutter in her chest. "I'm ready for that too." And for the first time in years, she felt like the door was open not to the past, but to everything that was yet to come. Naomi wasn't used to feeling like she was enough. Not in her career, not in her relationships, and certainly not in the parts of herself she tried to leave behind. But with Noah, something felt different. He wasn't demanding. He didn't require her to be perfect. He simply asked her to be present. Yet, even as the days turned into months, and their love seemed to grow stronger, the weight of uncertainty still hung between them like a silent question. They had been living together for 6 months now, and while the mornings were soft and easy, the nights held a quiet tension. It wasn't about Julian anymore. Naomi had let go of that ghost, but it was about whether they could truly build a life together in a world that always seemed to be moving too fast, pulling them in different directions. Noah was out late one evening, working on a photography project for a gallery show. Naomi, as always, was left to her thoughts. She sat on the balcony, her legs curled beneath her, watching the city lights twinkle beneath the stars. She loved this moment when the world seemed to hold its breath, and everything felt still. But tonight, something inside her shifted. She couldn't quite place it, an unease, a sense of things unsettled. Maybe it was the constant worry of what would happen when their lives didn't fit into the neat corners they were trying to make. Or maybe it was the looming question she had refused to ask herself for months. What if she wasn't ready for the kind of love Noah was offering? He was so steady, so sure of them. But Naomi knew herself better now. She knew she ran, she hesitated, and sometimes she froze. Noah came home later, his tired eyes softening when he saw Naomi still on the balcony. "Hey," he said gently, stepping out into the cool night. "I didn't expect you to still be awake." "I couldn't sleep," she admitted. "Just thinking." He sat next to her, wrapping his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "About what?" "I don't know. About us. About everything." Noah's voice softened. "What are you scared of, Naomi?" She flinched, not expecting the question to come so easily, so directly. "I'm scared of not being enough for you," she whispered, her eyes searching his. "That maybe I won't be able to be the person you need me to be. That I'll let you down." He was quiet for a moment. Then he took her hand in his grip firm but tender. "Naomi, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be real with me. We don't need to have it all figured out today. We can figure it out together." Her chest tightened, and she closed her eyes. She had been so afraid of failing, of not being able to give him everything he deserved. But in that moment, she realized that his love was never about her being perfect. It was about being present, about being there, even when they didn't have all the answers. The next day, Naomi took a step she hadn't thought she would take so soon. She visited her therapist again. It had been a while. She hadn't realized how much she had been carrying until it started to spill out again. Sitting across from Dr. Margot, Naomi felt a familiar knot in her stomach. But this time, when she spoke, it wasn't about the past or Julian. It was about her. About the woman she had become. The woman who was learning to love, not just the people around her, but herself. "I'm scared, Margot," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm scared that I'm holding myself back from Noah, even though I love him. I don't know how to be all in." Dr. Margot nodded, her eyes kind. "Naomi, love is never just about being all in. It's about growing together. You don't have to have all the answers right now. What matters is that you're willing to try." Naomi paused, letting the words settle into her bones. It was true. She didn't need to have all the answers. She just needed to be willing to show up. Noah noticed the change in her. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't healed. but she was present in ways that meant more than any grand gesture or promise of forever. One night, they were sitting on the couch, an old movie playing in the background, the sound soft and comforting. Naomi turned to him, her eyes serious but soft. "Noah," she began, her voice steady, "I want to take the next step with you. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have all the answers. But I'm ready to build something with you, to be real with you. And I want that, if you're still with me." Noah looked at her for a long moment, and then smiled, his eyes warm and full of love. "I'm not going anywhere," he said quietly. "I'm here, with you, and we'll figure it out, one day at a time." Naomi felt the weight lift from her chest. This was what love was. Not about having all the answers, but about walking forward together, even when the future was uncertain. A week later, they went on a weekend trip to the coast. It was quiet, peaceful, just the two of them, walking along the shore, the waves crashing softly at their feet. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Noah turned to her, holding out a small box. Naomi's heart skipped. "You don't have to answer now," he said. "But I want you to know. I'm serious about this. About you. About us." She opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring. It wasn't an engagement ring, not yet. It was just a promise. A symbol of everything they had built, and everything they were still building. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Naomi," Noah said, his voice full of conviction. "But I'm asking you, not for an answer, but for the chance to keep moving forward with you. For as long as you'll let me." Naomi blinked back tears, her heart swelling with something she couldn't quite name. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm all in." Naomi's heart beat a little faster as she sat in the small cafe that had become their spot where she and Noah had spent countless hours laughing, talking, and simply being. But today felt different. Today, the question was no longer if they were building something together. Today, it was how. Noah had always been steady, always calm. But lately, there was a restlessness in him, like something was stirring beneath the surface. Naomi had noticed it in the way he would stare out the window when he thought she wasn't looking, or how his hands would clench around his coffee cup when he was lost in thought. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice soft but with an undercurrent of concern. "You've been a little distant lately." Noah hesitated for a moment before meeting her gaze. "I've been thinking about what we talked about, the future. I don't want to rush things, but I'm also starting to feel like we need to make some decisions. Like, what does this look like? Long term?" Naomi smiled gently. "That's what I've been thinking too. But I don't want us to rush just for the sake of making a decision. I want to know we're both ready. Really ready." Noah nodded, his brow furrowing as he took a deep breath. "I think I am. I think we are. But we can't keep waiting for the perfect moment. I want to take a leap with you, Naomi. I want to build something together, whether it's moving in together, traveling more, or figuring out how we navigate our lives." Naomi's chest tightened at the thought. She had been so careful about not rushing into things, about not making a choice that would feel too permanent, too heavy. But now, with Noah sitting across from her, looking at her with those steady eyes, she realized something. She was already building with him. With every moment they shared, every conversation, every challenge they faced together, it was already happening. "What are you afraid of?" she asked, her voice soft but probing. Noah didn't answer immediately. He just looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes, something vulnerable. He took a moment, and then his voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "I guess. I'm afraid of losing what we have. I'm afraid of it not being enough." Naomi reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. "You don't have to be afraid. We've been through so much already, figured out so much about ourselves, about each other. It's not about being perfect, Noah. It's about making it work. Together." He smiled, his face softening as he looked at her. "I want that. I want you." But even as they made plans, there was an undercurrent of fear. Naomi couldn't ignore it. She had grown used to the ebb and flow of their love, but there were still moments when she doubted whether she could truly open herself to a future without looking back, without checking to see if Julian's shadow was still lingering in the corner of her mind. One night, after they had spent hours unpacking, Naomi sat on the edge of their new couch, staring at the empty walls. It was late, and Noah had gone to bed, but she couldn't sleep. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Berlin, back to the days she'd spent walking alone by the river, thinking about the future. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. She thought about how far she'd come, how much had changed since those early days with Noah. And yet, there was still a part of her that wasn't sure she had fully let go. The next day, Naomi went to visit Julian. It wasn't something she had planned, but when the urge to see him, to close that chapter of her life, became too strong to ignore, she knew she had to face it. When she walked into the small gallery where he worked, Julian was behind the counter, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. He looked different now, less guarded, more at peace. But there was still something about him that felt like unfinished business. "I didn't expect to see you," Julian said, his voice soft but warm. "How have you been?" Naomi smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes completely. "I've been good. Really good. I'm in a new place. With Noah." Julian nodded, his face thoughtful. "I'm glad to hear that. I always wanted you to be happy." They sat together for a while, talking about old memories, shared laughs, and the life that had slipped away. It was comfortable, but not in the way it once was. There were no promises left, no false hope. Just two people, acknowledging that they had loved each other once, but it was no longer enough to keep them from moving on. "I just wanted to see you, to thank you for everything, and to say, I'm sorry for the way things ended," Naomi said, her voice steady. "You don't need to apologize," Julian replied softly. "We were who we needed to be for each other at that time. And I'll always have a place for you in my heart, Naomi. But I know now that it's your time. To move forward. To be happy." She smiled, a real smile this time, and stood up to leave. As she walked away, she felt something lift off her chest, something she hadn't even realized she had been carrying. It was done. When Naomi returned to the apartment, Noah was waiting for her. He didn't ask where she had been, didn't need to. She could see the understanding in his eyes, the trust they had built together. She walked straight into his arms, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. "Hey," Noah said softly. "How are you?" "I'm good," Naomi replied, her voice a little shaky but full of warmth. "I'm good now. And I'm ready." Noah smiled, his eyes searching hers for any doubt, but there was none. "Ready for what?" "Ready for everything. The future. With you."